So now the conversation around is getting even messier, because this time the shade did not come from a cast member. It came from somebody who actually helped build the machine. And when he speaks, people listen differently because he understands how reality television works behind the scenes. He knows how narratives are shaped, how exits are handled, how alliances form, and most importantly, he knows exactly how to throw shade without technically saying a name. And that is why this moment at the Black Effect Podcast Festival had so many people talking. Because on the surface, it looked harmless. It looked like a motivational conversation about business, success, and moving with grace. But underneath that polished conversation was something much deeper. There was frustration. There was messaging. There was positioning. And if you really listen carefully to what was said, it starts sounding less like praise for one person and more like a direct response to everybody else who has been publicly attacking production, leaking information, complaining online, and trying to weaponize social media against the franchise. That is where this gets interesting. Because for months now, the universe has felt unstable. Former friendships are broken. Producers are allegedly clashing with cast members. Bloggers are becoming part of the story. Fans are choosing sides like political parties. And every week, there seems to be another rumor about contracts, spin-offs, firings, favoritism, and secret power struggles behind the scenes. But what made the situation different is that someone appeared to publicly reward one specific kind of behavior. Silence. Not chaos. Not retaliation. Not online warfare. Silence. And the second he started praising for bowing out gracefully, people immediately began trying to figure out who he was indirectly criticizing. Because in reality television, compliments are rarely just compliments, especially when cameras are involved, especially when contracts are involved, and especially when people feel betrayed. The Black Effect event that started everything. Now let's talk about the actual event itself, because the atmosphere matters here. The Black Effect Podcast Festival in Atlanta was massive. Celebrities, podcasters, influencers, entrepreneurs, entertainers, everybody was there. According to the live stream commentary, the place was overcrowded, security was overwhelmed, parking was chaos, and the energy felt almost uncontrollable from the moment people arrived. You had major personalities moving through the building. You had music artists, athletes, media figures, reality stars, people networking, people filming content, people trying to be seen. And events like that are important because they become unofficial power rooms. Deals happen there. Relationships get repaired there. Enemies end up in the same hallway there. And in celebrity culture, proximity matters. Who is invited matters. Who gets stage time matters. Who gets introduced with excitement matters. That is why the clip involving and carried so much weight. Because this was not filmed in a messy reunion environment. This was not an argument scene. This was not gossip on a random blog. This was a public industry event. And during that conversation, Carlos essentially frames Stormy as somebody who handled her departure from reality television correctly. He highlighted grace, he highlighted dignity, he highlighted financial success. And then he dropped the line that changed everything. The best revenge is my paper. Now that sentence sounds motivational at first. But psychologically, that line is strategic. Because what he was really saying is this. If you are truly successful, you do not need public revenge. You do not need online meltdowns. You do not need social media campaigns. You do not need interview tours attacking production. You do not need to expose private conversations. You do not need to drag former coworkers every week. You simply move on and make money. That was the subtext. And everybody watching understood there was another side to that statement. Why people believe the shade was directed at former cast members. The internet immediately began connecting dots, because there have been several personalities associated with, who have publicly expressed frustration with production over the last few years. Some people complained about editing, some implied favoritism, some suggested manipulation behind the scenes. Others aligned themselves with bloggers and online creators to push narratives against production. So when Carlos publicly praised Stormy for not doing those things, many viewers interpreted it as indirect criticism toward those who did. And psychologically, this is where power dynamics become important. In television, producers rarely fight publicly because they usually do not have to. Cast members need visibility. Producers control visibility. Cast members need contracts. Producers influence contracts. Cast members need storylines. Producers build storylines. So when somebody leaves a show angrily and begins publicly criticizing production, it may feel empowered temporarily through fan support online. But the long-term industry consequences can become much bigger than the immediate internet applause. That was essentially the argument being made in the livestream commentary. The speaker kept emphasizing one idea repeatedly. You have to be careful about the bridges you burn. And whether people agree or disagree with that statement, there is truth to how entertainment industries operate. Reputation travels faster than talent sometimes. Executives talk, producers talk, networks talk. Public behavior becomes part of your professional profile, especially in reality television, where personality itself is the product. The real message behind Grace. Now here's where things become psychologically fascinating. The repeated use of the word grace was not accidental. Grace in celebrity culture functions almost like a branding strategy. It signals emotional control. It signals maturity. It signals professionalism under pressure. But there's another layer to it. Sometimes grace also means silence. And silence in reality TV can be interpreted in two completely different ways, depending on who is watching. One side sees silence as classy. Another side sees silence as strategic suppression. That is why audiences split so dramatically during situations like this. Some fans believe cast members should expose everything. They believe transparency matters more than loyalty. They want behind-the-scenes information. They want to know how production manipulates narratives. Other fans believe public attacks against producers damage the franchise itself and ultimately hurt everybody involved. So when Carlos praised Stormy's exit strategy, people heard two separate messages at the same time. Message 1, she handled herself professionally. Message 2, other people didn't. And because no names were explicitly mentioned, viewers started inserting their own suspects into the conversation. That is how reality television discourse spread so quickly online. The financial flex was not accidental. Another major moment in the clip was the reference to Stormy allegedly being worth over $50 million and taking home more than 50%. Now, whether viewers believe the exact numbers or not is almost irrelevant. The purpose of the statement matters more than the numbers themselves. This was about establishing leverage. In celebrity psychology, wealth changes perception. Once somebody is framed as financially independent, audiences start viewing their decisions differently. Leaving a show suddenly looks less like failure and more like choice. That is powerful, because reality TV often creates the illusion that cast members need the show in order to survive publicly. But when somebody already has businesses, revenue streams, and independent visibility, their relationship with the show changes financially. That distinction matters tremendously in entertainment culture. The blogger era of reality TV. One of the most important parts of this entire conversation is the way bloggers have become integrated into the reality TV ecosystem itself. Years ago, bloggers mainly reacted to shows after episodes aired. Now, bloggers influence storylines before filming even finishes. Cast members leak information to bloggers. Bloggers develop relationships with producers. Fans use bloggers to push campaigns. Rumors become narratives before episodes even air. The line between viewer and participant has almost disappeared, and the livestream commentary reflects that perfectly. The speaker openly discusses production rumors, contract issues, executive relationships, behind-the-scenes conflicts, filming schedules, and internal tensions. That is not normal fan commentary anymore. That is insider-style discourse. And producers notice that, which creates another psychological layer: trust. Who can production trust? Who leaks information? Who escalates conflict publicly? Who keeps conversations private? Who weaponizes fan bases? These questions become central in reality television because leaks can damage story planning, marketing strategy, and even contract negotiations. That is why this whole situation feels bigger than just shade. It feels like an ongoing war over control of the narrative. The danger of making bloggers part of the story. One thing that stood out heavily in the livestream was the suggestion that certain bloggers or commentators may now know too much. That is dangerous territory in reality television, because once outside commentators become emotionally involved in caste politics, the content stops being simple recap culture and starts becoming faction warfare. and viewers can feel that shift. Instead of, here's what happened on the episode, it becomes, here is who production is protecting. Here is who producers hate. Here is who got manipulated. Here is who secretly controls casting. At that point, the audience is no longer just watching a reality show. They are watching a political ecosystem. And honestly, that may explain why the audience remains so emotionally invested. Because the drama now exists on 3 levels simultaneously. The on-screen drama, the behind-the-scenes drama, and the online blogger drama. Those layers feed each other constantly. The sleeping with producers rumors. Now we need to address one of the messiest sections of the livestream commentary carefully, because it reflects something much larger within entertainment culture. The speaker discussed long-standing rumors about cast members allegedly becoming romantically involved with production figures or executives in order to gain advantages. To be clear, these are allegations and speculation presented during the live stream, not verified facts. But psychologically, the reason these rumors spread so aggressively in reality TV is because audiences are always searching for hidden explanations behind success, screen time, and casting decisions. If one person gets more visibility than another, fans start asking, why? If one person survives multiple seasons while others disappear, fans ask, who protects them? When transparency is limited, speculation fills the gap. And reality television is built on imbalance. Producers intentionally control information. Cast members sign contracts limiting what they can say publicly. Editing changes audience perception. Entire conversations can disappear in post-production. So fans often assume unseen forces are influencing outcomes. That is why rumors involving favoritism, relationships, or secret alliances spread so easily. Because viewers are trying to explain power. Why public meltdowns often backfire. Another major theme throughout the livestream was the idea that public retaliation against production rarely ends well. And historically, there is truth to that across reality television. When cast members leave shows angrily and begin exposing production publicly, fans may initially support them emotionally. But networks and executives often view unpredictability as a liability. Entertainment industries value controllability, not morality, not fairness. Controllability. Can this person follow production structure? Can they protect confidential information? Can they participate without destabilizing the entire ecosystem? That is usually what executives care about most. So while audiences may celebrate explosive interviews online, industry decision-makers may quietly interpret those same interviews as risk factors. That appears to be part of the larger warning embedded in the livestream commentary. The Kiki situation still haunts the franchise. One of the most emotionally charged sections involved discussions surrounding and lingering tensions connected to her name being brought up during filming discussions. Even though details remain unclear publicly, what becomes obvious is that the emotional aftermath surrounding Kiki continues to affect conversations within the franchise ecosystem. And that is understandable. Reality television becomes extremely complicated when real pain enters the picture. Because suddenly, entertainment stops feeling entertaining. Fans begin re-evaluating conflicts differently. Cast members react differently. Producers become more cautious. Online commentary becomes heavier emotionally. The live stream implied that certain topics may still trigger defensive reactions behind the scenes. Whether accurate or not, that perception alone shapes fan conversations significantly. The Marcus allegations and control dynamics. Toward the end of the live stream, attention shifted toward alleged tensions involving a figure named Marcus and broader production conflicts. Again, these are allegations from commentary, not verified facts. But what stands out psychologically is the repeated theme of control. The speaker repeatedly suggests that some production figures only want relationships with people they can manage or influence comfortably. And honestly, that is not unique to reality television. Power structures in entertainment often depend on compliance. People who cooperate smoothly are easier to integrate into long-term projects. People who challenge systems publicly become harder to manage. So when the speaker says, if he can't control you, he probably don't want to work with you. That statement reflects a very common fear inside entertainment industries. Whether true or exaggerated, many performers believe creative systems reward obedience more than individuality. That belief fuels resentment. Why this whole situation feels like a warning. At its core, this entire controversy feels less like random gossip and more like a public warning disguised as casual conversation. That is why viewers reacted so strongly, because the message underneath everything sounded something like this. Watch how you leave. Watch who you attack. Watch what bridges you burn. Watch what you expose publicly, because the industry remembers. And then Carlos reinforced that message indirectly by praising somebody who exited quietly and successfully. That combination created the perfect storm. The bigger issue, reality TV is changing. The truth is, reality television itself is evolving. Years ago, producers held almost all the power because audiences only saw what networks aired. Now cast members have Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, podcast interviews, independent fan bases. That changes everything. Cast members can now fight narratives publicly in real time. But producers are adapting too. Instead of direct confrontation, they increasingly use subtle messaging, strategic silence, selective praise, and public positioning. That is exactly why this moment mattered. Nobody screamed. Nobody fought. Nobody exposed documents. Yet everybody understood the tension anyway. That is advanced reality television politics. Conclusion. At the end of the day, this situation is not really about one clip. It is about power. Who controls the narrative? Who survives the franchise? Who gets protected? Who gets iced out? Who can leave quietly? Who feels the need to burn everything down on the way out? And most importantly, what happens when reality television stops being just entertainment and starts becoming personal warfare? Because that is where we are right now. A franchise caught between business, ego, loyalty, resentment, ambition, and public perception. And whether viewers agree with it or not, one thing is undeniable. That little speech at the Black Effect Festival was not random. It was calculated. It was deliberate. And it sounded very much like somebody reminding the entire room that in reality television, silence can sometimes be more powerful than revenge.